Hello and welcome to Epic Loot Radio, episode 46, with a sit down with the Comicstorian himself, talking about the future of MMOs, the next big MMO. What is an MMO? I don't know. We'll hopefully find out on today's show. Thank you so much for joining me, Comicstorian, aka Benny, aka Ben and Friends, the man who rivals me in our private war, our cold private war of who can create the most channels on YouTube. How are you doing, sir?
Do we want to count? We want to count them off? Let's see who has the most of that, because you don't know all of them.
You don't know all of mine.
Do you want to know all my? Do we want to do? We can do a count off. See who's got the most projects.
Okay, all right.
Are we counting non-YouTube related too? Because I got stuff outside of YouTube now.
That's a question for chat. I think for now we'll bring you back, and then we'll let chat decide in the comments or whatever if we're going to promote non-YouTube stuff. But let's stick to YouTube channels. I think that's the original throwdown. How many do you got?
Okay, I got to count now because I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah,
So I got
actually have mine pulled up. Yeah,
I got Comicstorian, I got Comicstorian Full Story, I got Comicstorian Short. So that's just the Comicstorian brand. Then we got Absolutely Marvel and DC. I got Ben and Friends. We have Dungeons and Ale. We have Tales from the Mind. And that might be it. That might be all the ones that I'm actively. Technically, I got my personal channel, but these 7 I'm working on.
Okay,
so I'll count I won't count dead channels because I could add like 4 channels into that.
Okay, so then I think with the dead channels, you clearly have me beat. There's a couple I'm not going to name because they're specifically like test experiment channels.
Okay,
so I won't name them, but overall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm rocking 10 channels right now. The ones that I will name for this one, I won't tell you what like the name, but I'll tell you like I've got a kid's story time channel. So I basically just read my kids' stories to them. That's the goal, and it's just really focused for that. And then I've got Ginger 14 Gaming, Ginger Prime Says, Ginger Blue Gaming, Ginger Destiny Gaming, Ginger World Gaming. Now I might end up just kind of cutting the Destiny Gaming and just make that like Destiny Shorts, and literally just like cover Destiny on the main channel or something like that, because it ends up being a lot of work, and especially with Destiny, like it's got an already established community. So I'm like, I just make kind of guides, and then I just kind of talk about my thoughts on Destiny like every quarter, like with it's a seasonal game for me. So it's like, all right, I'm playing it, and then it's like, okay, I've kind of had my fun, and I'll see you guys in season 4, in the next season, whatever the heck they want to call it.
The new one they just started, Plunder,
Pirates, yes. And
no, so you got me beat on active channels, but I got you beat with combined dead channels. I'm only focusing on 7 right now. So.
We're also playing a game that I have a clear advantage of winning. If we talk about subscriber numbers in total, like I think I'm like I've been doing stand up, and one of my bits starts talking like, yeah, no, I'm a YouTuber, and combined I got 150,000 subscribers, which my wife now says that's acceptable enough to share with the public that I do YouTube, as opposed to like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber with 50 subs, and not dogging on people with 50 subs. It's a lot of work to get that grind. But like, if you sit here like, let me drop 100,000 something. How about millions? how about millions?
Okay. Well, if we're going sub count, my main channel, I'll gonna cross 3 million by the end of the year.
Nice, dude. Congrats.
Then one of my dead channels is 200,000, but it's dead 200,000. Like that's the worst part. I can't post on it and like it get 200,000. Otherwise, I never would have left it.
Yeah.
Like everything else is between 2,000 subs to like 20,000 subs right now.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just still on that silver play button chase. So that is what it is.
I just ordered multiple of those. Did you know you could order multiple?
Yeah. Chris and I.
That's a new thing. That's how long I've been doing this.
Yeah. Chris and I talked about that because if we ever get work to game over 100K, then it's like that's the plan. In fact, actually, the news just yesterday about that Twitch will allow you to stream once you're partnered. So now we'll actually bring back the live letter coverage to work to game as a main focus, because we had a legal loophole. Is that I am a separate legal entity from Work to Game. Work to Game is its own thing, and so I could stream on Ginger Prime, so I could get around that agreement to a degree. So I would still stream on Twitch, but now we can actually do both because of how it's actually written as a part of the agreement. So I was like, this is great.
I mean, I just ignore it. I've just ignored it for like a year and a half.
Most people do, but Chris is a full-time content creator, and you got your Army service pension and stuff like that. So that like. He relies on it fully, so it's not.
Well, I've never relied on Twitch. Twitch was always gravy on top of stuff. Because the only time I ever did Twitch, I did it properly. I did it for 3 years, and if you want to talk about that, I can tell you the number of reasons I quit Twitch. My opinion, it's the worst of the content creation platforms. It's the worst of all of them. So
it has that you always on the grind mentality where
it does.
this podcast will live on forever, and somebody could watch it in a year's time, and that's
the problem with Twitch is you have to love Twitch itself, like the whole. Like I love streaming and I love Twitch, but you need to love it to that extra level that all the bullshit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like well, a great example, I loved the Army. I'd go back regardless of the bullshit. You know what I mean? But it's well known that we had bullshit in the Army.
Yeah. The on that note though, is like I still feel that Twitch does have the best toolkit for streaming.
It does,
especially when I being that I get to be a part of both. They do and will allow you now to stream simultaneously to mobile platforms like TikTok and Instagram, which I think that's actually a real bold move. And that's one of the reasons why it's interesting that Facebook's making the changes that it's making, because it cannot establish a foothold within the gaming. And so they've taken a big L this year in that space. But, I'm just kind of I just kind of wonder if there's some kind of subtle agreement, because Twitch can't figure out VOD content and YouTube can't really figure out live content. And it just feels like they're kind of like, maybe we just don't, murder each other so that we don't get like we don't have like the FTC coming in with a anti-compete or antitrust,
See,
on
I
that
don't
mindset.
think it's that.
Okay.
I think YouTube's problem is, and as proven by the shorts mentality they're running with right now, which is kind of tanking so many channels at the moment.
Oh yeah.
YouTube wants to be everything. Like that's the problem with YouTube, which is why streaming takes a hit. Because if YouTube can't come in and be a real competitor, they shove that project to the side and go work on something else.
Yeah.
So
they have to do the shorts thing, the TikTok stuff. Actually, personally, like while I'm on TikTok and just crossed over 100 followers, thank you guys. I still have like massive China concerns with data breaching and all that crap.
Yeah.
Like it's like, yeah, but then it's like, well, from a content creator perspective, like I am shooting myself literally in the foot by not being where people are. And so, kind of my kind of perspective is secretly I'm kind of like, well, if it does get shut down, I'm glad YouTube's got this already set up and ready to wholly capitalize on it.
That's something I realized recently in the last 2 years. So, I mean, we've talked enough that that I pretty much retired back at the end of 2019. COPPA came through, killed all my monetization.
Yeah.
Followed by that, we had COVID, and I was like, you know what? I'm done with this game. I spent 2 years just letting Comicstorian die. Like that. The plan was just do what I love. Don't care about the views.
Yeah.
Collect residuals, call it a day. Coming back in 2022, because we launched a bunch of side projects, and that kind of reignited a lot of love for doing things. Like in general, it was like, oh my God, the podcast channel is doing great. Oh, I love the reaction of getting to Dungeons and Ale. Why don't I try making Comicstorian a thing again?
Yeah.
And we blew up in the shorts market. We were hitting like crazy numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Shorts. It was doing great. The long form videos, I had a weird situation where shorts did amazing. My new long form videos did not. My old long form videos started breaking 10 million. So like it was the shorts would do great and it would recommend old stuff. And then my new stuff was plateaued. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But what I noticed is when I came back, the game is different. It's only been 2 years and the game is different. Now you need to be on TikTok, Instagram. You need to be on Reels. You need to be on Facebook. You need to be a part of everything. And if you won't do it, someone's going to steal your content and put it over there.
Yeah.
Like I literally had to shuffle one.
Yeah.
I had to shuffle one of my team members to just monitor all of that and maintain uploads on a daily basis and all that crap.
Yeah.
So, and then we had to reformat some of our formats. Like we had to do shorts games. We do games where people get superheroes, stuff like that. Those are doing super well. Clips, they do okay. Like we had to come up with new plans, and that just made me like super excited because I had to actually think about how to do things again.
Yeah, that's the fun side of it. I was like, I've kind of looked at this like adapt or die, but at the same time, it feels like it can be overwhelming, and that's where I just kind of have to tell myself in my ambition and be like, all right, like just you got to take an L sometimes. You just can't do everything. Just focusing on the things you enjoy and try to figure out how to make them work in the new creator economy. Well, and
the funny thing is, you're right. It's adapt or die. And it used to be the mentality of like, don't do too much. You'll burn out. Don't burn out. Don't burn out. You know how many calls I've been in with YouTube partner managers where the first thing they say is, no, they're like, don't do more. Slow down. We need you not to burn out. That's the normal thing they say. But on the flip side, there's also 3 shorts a day is really good. And like, if you're going to really do 2 or 3 long form a day, I'm like, oh my God, you can't mix messages.
It is a total mixed message. It's going to be interesting. My goal, my hope, when we talk about like live streaming, though, when you talk about them wanting to do it at all, like to be able to take this and not have to download it and clip it up. And like, if I could literally have the editor and say, turn this piece into a short, turn this piece into a short, and the system handles it, like that ultimately then takes it off my workload. But right now it ends up meaning like, well, I better make sure I make a note of like really great moments between Brian and Benny so he can make the short, you know, and etc. And how can I turn Benny into a cute cat girl so that people watch the video? Like, I don't know. We're gonna figure this out.
You should have told me. I would have got the ears and that.
Yeah, you know, I like people coming in au naturel, and we kind of play it by ear. Now, Estenian had said that some of the like when he sees shorts in their sub feed, that's why I publish all my shorts, is not to notify subscribers. I wish they would just handle that, because that's actually what
they do
seeing.
Well,
you have
they
to
do, but they
uncheck the
don't.
box.
It's no, but it's on the subscriber. So he's doing the right thing. If you watch those, then you're going to start getting flooded with shorts. It'll be like, oh, you're interested in shorts. Here's a bunch.
Yeah.
The algorithms are technically separate. The problem is the front page space is limited.
Yeah.
So yes, you watch some shorts, the shorts will start popping up on the front page. And because they're 60 seconds, it actually brings a huge amount of viewers, subs, all that stuff. Problem is watch time goes through the floor. Watch time is how YouTube pays. So I had a buddy who's like, you're doing shorts, you're killing it in shorts. Why are you doing it? I'm like, one, it's fun for me. Two, I've got 9 years of residuals from the other crap, so I don't really need to worry about my watch time. But he's like, should I do it? I'm like, no, not unless you want to, because if you don't do them out of fun, you are killing your watch time.
Yeah, and that's also, I heard that the shorts watch time doesn't actually count towards your partnership program. At least that was part of a Q&A with YouTube at some point. Like, it's actually
that would explain the current thing going on with the Ben and Friends channel, where it's like, we're getting all these views, but wow, that watch time sucks.
And it's like, it's just how that's like monetized via the fund as opposed to ads, because they haven't really figured out how to, I guess, monetize it. But anyway, now that we've spent half the podcast talking about YouTube content creation and shorts, which is exactly why people tuned in for the title. I got a couple questions for you. I'm generally curious as to your thoughts, especially as we live in 2022 and the state of MMOs.
Okay.
You ready for them?
Okay. What are the questions?
The easiest one to help.
I remember every time I join you on these things, I get blasted by your audience. It's great. I love it.
It's like, what?
I got super thick skin. I like going to places just to get tore apart. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Who is this guy and why? Oh yeah, but that's also the 14 community, maybe. Like, I guess every community.
I hate super fans. Now. I quit the game. I hate the 14 community. The 14 community has shifted hardcore from like, okay, so we're like the underdogs. WoW's great, and we got awesome raids, and we got awesome content, and we're like the underdogs. No one knows that we exist.
We're fighting for the good thing.
If you come to our game, it's amazing. You're gonna shift over, and it's gonna be great.
And you're gonna see just how good it is.
Yeah, and I trucked with that till Shadowbringers, and then Shadowbringers brought over. It was like the WoW refugees. Well, yes, there are some people that came over for the content, but I noticed a giant influx of people who wanted to play dress up and go to ERP huts. That's what I noticed, a giant influx of. Like, all the servers like Balmung.
You went to an ERP hut.
I did that one video. No, I did that one video. I did. But like everyone I would talk to, like because I would be in the hardcore raid guilds doing ultimates and stuff. And like the community divided into the people who think that being good at like ultimates is like, I'm amazing at life. No, you're good at an ultimate. How about you roll back a little there, buddy? And the other side of the thing was the cat girls being like, check out my bikini. I'm going to go do musical instruments. And I'm like, where do I fall into this community? Because I don't want to do the RP. And I don't consider ultimates to be the be-all, end-all of my life. And I couldn't find any middle ground. So I was just like, everywhere I'd go, it's like, oh, well, you're getting shit on because you didn't spend 12 hours in an ultimate. Okay, fine. I'll go hang out with these other friends. And they're like, we are so bad that we can't do Ifrit on level 50. And I'm like, why? They're like, well, we spend all of our time in the huts talking to people. Why? Like,
all right. So that kind of makes sense. What is an MMO RPG to you?
An MMORPG to me, a proper MMORPG is classic EverQuest, classic Final Fantasy 11, classic 14 when it started, classic WoW. Like, an MMORPG to me is you and I teaming up to go on a grand adventure with an end goal and end game stats, and we're getting those trophies to show off to a community. Like, when I grew up and played MMOs, that is an MMORPG. I mean, heck, half the games out now dropped the RPG moniker. It's just, we're an MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? No. What happened to the classic games that I loved and could walk around with? But
within that answer, though, like what about those defines the MMO specifically then MMORPG to you, as opposed to something like Modern 14 or Modern WoW, or hell, like even Destiny 2, where the
Events like
developers label it as an MMO.
40-man raids in WoW, world bosses in EverQuest, Dynamis in Final Fantasy 11. Back when they made the 24-man raids in 14, and they were actually a challenge and not something you just jump into and get dragged along. Like, for me, an MMO is us all coming together for a giant common goal, be it the goal is RP or the goal is we're going to do a crazy difficult thing. And MMOs these days have just shrunk down those numbers, so I don't feel it's massively multiplayer anymore. The massively multiplayer portion is going to a town, seeing a couple of people doing emotes, and that is it. Like, whatever happened to our 40-man raids and our, all of our content that required people to work together? And a lot of MMOs these days have you segregated into like, well, here's your house, which is located away from everybody else. So even if I do win and I have the glowy weapon or the big trophy, there's nowhere to show it because no one cares. Because it's like, and that for me is what was massively multiplayer about everything. WoW did the same problem with like class huts and stuff like that. They moved everyone out of there. That for me was what the MMO portion is, the big group stuff.
So in that regards, then, what would you say, or is it possible for that game to exist in today's economy?
I love that comment. I got we exist. There's dozens of us. Thank you. There is, because like I don't consider myself bad. I could beat the ultimates, but I don't want to spend all day in there, and I don't want to spend all day trying on outfits. I just want to play the game, man.
Yeah, that's where my heart sinks. And whenever people are like, "Glamour's the true end game in Final Fantasy 14," like, it just makes me like I'm fine if you like that. Like, I'm not going to judge you. Like, I don't care. Like, I do not care. But that is not end game. Like, in my mind, end game, the true, like, for MMOs specifically, would be an MMO. One of the key pillars of it is that the end game begins at level 1. So your investment as soon as you step into the game will pays off. Like, maybe not like the biggest payoff, but by crafting and gathering and participating and doing all these things, building relationships, those things have massive payoffs down the road. Where it feels like the modern game that would label it like E14's this way, Destiny specifically, because every expansion Destiny says, all right, everybody's now at this new level of power. So like, there's no reason to go grind power. Like, I'm not going to stress out grinding power, which works for my play style as a dad and as somebody who has got, like you, crazy number of channels. But like, as somebody who's like, what's the real investment? So investment also kind of is a key to that. But do you think the MMO that we both have defined and grew up on, do you think that can actually survive in today's like economy? Would it get garner enough support to have the content and the population that makes sense? Or is that something that was just for its time?
I think there could be. I think no game developer wants to devote time to that. I think that's the actual issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Final Fantasy 11's numbers back in the day were impressive. Everyone was like, wow, it's not WoW levels, but it's still a good game and we're going to keep supporting it. And I feel like you could get a good, 500,000 million people to jump into a title like that and start trucking along and playing it properly. When New World came out, it was being touted as like a call to bring back. It was going to go back to classic MMO style. That brought in so many people. So,
it did.
And so I do think that a population exists, but I feel like too many games these days are looking for the quick buck. The problem, the modern day MMO at this point has turned into the model of like, what's it called? Fortnite and all that kind of stuff. Where if you play Fortnite, I play a lot of Fortnite. Trust me.
Is Fortnite an MMO?
I would consider it one at this point because it has all the trappings of a classic MMO right now. If I get into Fortnite, you can run the Dragon Ball Z quest line. So you can go do a whole bunch of stuff on a map with other players involving the Dragon Ball Z. At the same time, you can buy 2 different quest packs, which give you additional things to go do on the map. On top of that, there's an ongoing storyline that you're a part of. Like, it's an MMO, not an MMORPG. I'm not going to get that thrown under the bus for. But I feel like the problem is anyone can jump into Fortnite. You could jump in right now and you have never played and we'll be on the exact same level other than skill, but you're not behind. I don't have to level you. You can do whatever. And I've noticed that trend with a lot of games that want to try and dip into the MMO waters, like Destiny, where every season they just update everyone. If you're behind, you're updated. Just keep up. You're fine. You don't worry about it. You can take a break and come back. And they're all going farther and farther away from like big achievements, because back in the day, the thing with the big achievements was that we would work like 11, for example. You
Mhm.
would go to Limbus so that you could be strong enough to do Dynamis, so that you could be strong enough to do the next thing. But all these games aren't creating that like ladder system of endgame. They're just making one thing, and when you beat it, here's your glamour, which cuts us back to glamour is your endgame, because that's what these dungeons and stuff are dropping now. That's all they care about. There's nothing beyond them. Like I officially dropped out of doing Savage runs with the latest 14. Once I beat the Endwalker,
yeah,
and I beat the Savage, I was like, I'm done with the game, because all it ever is run Savage, get the loot, look at my shiny weapon, and when the story was removed, I was out. I was just done with it. So,
do you feel like that's actually kind of a gift to longtime players to have a moment where you can feel like you can actually step away from the game and have that complete experience?
no, I do. I think that's kind of a reward for putting 10 years in. I'm debating if I'm going to do the same thing with Destiny when Lightfall drops. Because like I can get back on that train, but you've shown me that train is going to be a 10-year journey. Like,
yeah, that's what's really interesting, and it's a real struggle that I've had with 14 right now. Is the setup right now is interesting enough from a Final Fantasy IV nostalgic factor, because they are leaning in that deeply. So it's like, okay, so there's a curiosity, but there's also this sense of like, what are we doing with it? What are we doing here? You know, like, because the problems the game has still are the problems the game has, right? I went on like an angry rant this last week where it was like the gear sucks, right? You know, it's like visibly it's a stat stick with basically a piece of glamour. That's what the collection game is. There's no perks, there's no unique builds, there's no interesting things.
And every expansion, they get rid of the small little things we were able to do. Like if you go back to like Heavensward, there was builds. There were like kind of loadouts that you would work towards. And now they got rid of anything that will make it unique to you.
Yeah. And then you have content, right? Like, so they added in Eureka and Bajja, and they had gear that had perks that were only active in that. And so
and those felt like MMORPGs.
They did.
Like
those like did.
40-man things. I'm going in, Bajja and all that crap. I was enjoying the hell out of those.
It makes me hope that we get to see that style of content brought into the entirety of the game. But the only way for them to do something like that is to absolutely overhaul the whole game. And who knows? Like, you know, Square Enix says they'll spare no expense, but I mean, come on. Like,
I mean, we got a farming thing. I jumped on for that.
The Island Sanctuary thing?
Yeah. Did you try it yet?
No.
I like Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon and Ruin Factory, and I got onto that, and I'm like, what's the point? Like, really, like you already made endgame for crafters and gatherers, and I went into there, and it's like, all right, you could be level 1, and I'm like, what's the point? What if it's not useful for anything? And it just seems like another passive way to make content. And everyone I've spoken to is saying it's super grindy. I spent an hour and a half into it, and I'm still unlocking things. So I didn't know.
I don't mind a grind. The problem I think is there's a disconnect in its system. And I like, this is already how I felt when they presented it. And I go, why does it start after you finish Endwalker? Like, what's the point there? So meaning if this is something like, hey guys, check out this new content. Oh, after you finish 600 hours of this story, or however many hours it would take somebody to get through it, but don't skip the story or we're gonna screw you.
Now, apparently, and I don't know how this works.
Pretty hard.
Someone told me this, so this is through a third party, but you can just get started at Morbi Dry Docks apparently. So it's intended for like level 1. Now, like I said,
that's where you travel to it, but right now the unlock is tied behind finishing Endwalker. So maybe that's some update in the future, but it just feels like this would be fine content if you just opened it up. Like I think it would be better suited if that was the case, but we'll have to wait. And you know,
it just kind of reminds me of like Lost Arks Island and stuff like that, where it's just like, okay, I mean, this is a fun little thing, and and I haven't got to the point where you can maybe customize the houses, so maybe this is an answer to the housing problem that I saw. I looked into what people were doing with the lottery, and I'm like, this doesn't look any better.
No. No, it's like, that's the one thing, if they ever fixed and solved the housing problem, I would absolutely be thrilled, because that is the number one complaint from the community, hands down. And it's actually the only thing you can talk about the game in a negative way and online. Like, that's the one thing online you can say Final Fantasy 14 housing sucks, and people will be like, yeah, we're all on board for that.
100%.
Even the
still have an
Andes can't
account
do
going
anything
right
about
now.
it.
I would
What's
have
that?
canceled the account if I didn't have 2 houses. So at the free company house and my house, and I can't lose those. So
Well, and then it's the and then the mantra of take a break, right? Like, which like is a good thing. I think it's a healthy thing for gamers, and it's like, yeah, you could take a break as long as you don't own a house. And it's that fear. It's that fear that I don't know if they're incentivized. I think there is an incentive not to fix it because probably of how much just passive income gets generated from players who do not want to lose the thing that they were finally able to get after years and years of trying to acquire it.
The issue, and I've never said this about housing. They claim that they'll spare no expense, but they won't just keep making servers until we don't need them anymore. Like they keep playing this game of here's a few more, here's a few more, and I don't understand why it's like every month here's a few more. Okay, finally this one isn't full, so now we can stop making servers.
It's a real design coding problem. Like when like housing looks at, when you start to think of scalability in terms of like, space and time complexity for programmers, like it literally is like, yeah, that was like you have a physical cost to housing, so that in terms of that, like it is Square Enix throwing money at the problem because trying to fix the problem is going to be $2,000 of a massive undertaking. And to that point where it gets down to it is like, does Square Enix make, a new MMORPG? And Yoshi P commented on this a couple years ago, just the nightmare of trying to move people from 14 into whatever would be next. But they're going to 7.0. They got a 10-year plan again for 14.
Yeah,
and
my original theory, I think, got thrown out around Shadowbringers.
Yeah, like are they going to Calamity up and
yeah, you remember what my theory was? Like my theory was we were going to end it and we'll just move on to the next MMO. And I still think at one point that was on the table. If you look at the way the story was going until Shadowbringers, Shadowbringers introduced so many new elements and spun the story in a new direction. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's like, all right, here we go.
Right. And then Shadowbringers came out. We had the big boom in player base. So I have a feeling it was like, throw all that out. Why are we going to end this?
So obviously, as we are having our wonderful 14 Bash Fest, which I know will be received so well by those listening.
Hey, for the record, at the end of the day, I do love 14. I don't love what 14 has become, but I have played for 10 years and I just checked out Island Sanctuary. So while I've quit, I haven't really quit.
Yeah, I don't think anybody quits. Somebody told me the other day I should just quit 14. You should quit. You're the worst 14 content creator. I'm like, thanks for proving me right. Like that's like, okay. Like,
oh no,
right.
I hate, because I get this all the time in the comic books. The amount of people that apparently base their entire personality around a fandom or a game or a comics superhero, so that if you say anything negative, it's just, you're wrong. You're wrong. You should just quit what you're doing. Never read that comic again because you're wrong. And I've responded, and I love people like that because I like to jump in and be like, here's a dictionary explanation of what an opinion is. Like, you're allowed to have opinions.
Yeah, imagine getting so upset over somebody's opinion over art. It's like, come on, guys. Like,
I just love the random commenter on YouTube who tells me that I'm wrong and he's the accurate one. My favorite comment I ever got was, my opinion, I think it was Moon Knight. Well, on Moon Knight was incorrect. In my opinion, Moon Knight was, it was an okay show, but I don't think it got anywhere near it should have been. That I was wrong because this guy's wife liked it. And if his wife liked it, that means that it was a good show. And since that's how he apparently gauges things, I'm wrong. His wife is right. I'm like,
I'm glad people like you exist though to review like movies, because like I'm better at games, because like if you were going to give me the choice, games, like I pick games. But when it comes down to like movie reviews, like legitimately my test is, was I entertained? And it's like I'm not going to get any deeper. I'm like, that was fun. And there's only a handful of movies that I was just like, no, I was not entertained. I did not like that.
I look at things the same way. I have the entertainment value. Like, did I just enjoy this for the sake of what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this is an artistic piece. But normally, which movie you're getting into, going into it. Like, I don't go into an MCU project and be like, let me look at the nuances and the direction they're taking. No, it's a popcorn fodder piece. I'm a fan of the Transformers movies, but you got to watch them as popcorn fodder pieces. Like, don't overthink it.
I actually was like, I was annoyed by the first Transformers movie, because obviously they're like writing decisions on how do we advance the plot. And so it's like, let's bring the bad guy and jail him next to the thing that he was after the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, let's give him less errands to figure out, less mysteries. I was like, come on, let's go. All right, so like all that being said, that kind of lead me to my second question. What mistakes has the MMORPG genre made since you started playing MMOs?
They're trying to, in my opinion, they're trying to cater too much to the casuals. The games like Fortnite came out, and all these games do at this day and age is make things, they try to make content middle of the road. It's not super challenging. It's not super deep. It also doesn't take very much time investment to get involved into it.
Mhm.
And MMOs always stood as a time investment project. It was something you were like, I'm getting into an MMO. So the next 100 hours of my game time with this game is going to be in an MMO. I'm going, even classic WoW, I'm jumping in to jump over to here. But a lot of games are trying to build around this model of the dad mentality. You have an hour tonight, so we want to make it so that you can accomplish a goal. So Fortnite, Sea of Thieves, I just started playing again recently, and that's entirely what their model is. Hey, our story segment is going to be 45 minutes long. It'll take you 20 minutes to do a gold chest. You can goof around with your friends for 30 minutes. It's an hour and a half project. And I've got friends who have normal 9-to-5s that I play those games with. I feel like the problem MMOs ran into is they're trying to grab that audience, the Candy Crush crowd, the people who want a 15-minute in and out kind of experience. And that's what I feel like it is.
But isn't that where the money is, though?
Well, it is. But the problem is you can't do that properly in a game like Final Fantasy XIV because it's conflicting ideals. You can't tell me that I'm going to have to spend 300 hours to catch up to my friends. But don't worry. Once I do, we have 20-minute dungeons we can run. Like, that's the conflicting ideal. WoW's answer to get around it is buy all the skips. That's not a great answer. You just want more money out of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conflicting ideal. The MMO's point, like if you're going to come out with an MMO that doesn't do any of that, Destiny's tried that. The sunsetting is finally gone. Thank God.
Thank God.
So
yeah.
Who knows what they're going to do now? But they were trying that with the sunsetting, where you could just come back at any point and we could play something.
Yeah, Destiny removing sunsetting makes it so much easier because my guides literally transition to, hi, welcome to Destiny 2. I'm assuming you're watching this, deciding if you should get into it. The first thing we should talk about is that there's a chance that the content you buy will be deleted and you might not have access to it. As long as you're okay, and it's like, that is like that's my intro. As long as you're okay with this relationship, you're going to have an incredible time.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay is going to be stellar, but at some point, at some year, this thing that you love could get the axe. And so as long as you know that that's a possibility, you're going to enjoy this game. Well, is that then a problem of the RPG element of MMOs? Because what you described is like, it's the balance between the investment that you have as a longtime player versus the ease of access that it would be for your friends to join you and for you guys to experience content. How would you solve that problem if you were designing an MMO?
You can't. I think that's the problem. The issue is they're trying to solve an issue that doesn't really exist. They want the big million numbers from games like Fortnite. They're not happy with the 1 million or 2 million that an MMO would traditionally get.
Mm-hmm.
One of your commenters there said that WoW caters to the upper echelon. It doesn't. I jump in and out of WoW easily all the time. WoW has done the exact same thing where they try to come up with casual gameplay elements such as mini games, and even getting into a rating aspect of it. There's like 3 tiers of difficulty. You can get through the first 2 without even bothering. Mm-hmm. It's the last tier that you actually have to put effort in. And we have the exact same thing in Final Fantasy XIV with the ultimate fights and stuff. So I feel like even WoW and all these games, like WoW is bleeding subscribers, and 14 is picking up all the casuals. And I feel like it's just, like I said, there's no way to fix that. You can't merge the casual gameplay and then also tell me to spend 300 hours. The only way to do that would be to section it off as a seasonal thing, but no game can properly do that. Where like Destiny tried it and it got so panned, they threw it out. Like, we're done with it. Everything's in the game again.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely the right call. It is a problem in which that, like for 14, like the thing that frustrates me about the problem within that game specifically is that level sync and quest sharing doesn't really exist. Like it exists as a part of fates and dungeons, but as somebody going through the story, it has this weird setup of, if you were brand new, I invited you in, I'm a level 90, you're level 1. There's no way for me to really team up with you except for follow you around, not know where you're going because I can't see like what you're working on. So imagine I literally have had somebody like take a picture of your screen right now and text it to me so I know how to help you. Try to figure out whatever they were stuck on. And so that's the thing. But it's like if I could sync down to their level if I could then see what the heck quest they were on, and then essentially to stop having it when you hit one of those single player battle challenges. Like, let me just go in with them. Like stop with the will they, won't they kind of gameplay. Like, oh, we're together. Okay, we gotta disband party for a little bit. Okay, we're back together for this. And it's like, I think that would help on and remove this aspect of, you got to go grind all this stuff by yourself. And then you can finally join me, or you can skip, and then the community is going to let you know. That's a big no-no.
Yeah. All right. A new game just came out. It's all over the mobile market. Tower of Fantasy.
Yeah.
It's co-op, and they're promoting. What's that?
I was like, I'm waiting for them to update the controller stuff because, like, I as a controller player, like it says, I check every day. It still says coming soon. I'm like, come on, let's go.
It works. You can work it with a controller.
It works, but it's still annoying. Yeah.
But like that one promotes all the co-op elements. We got co-op because their biggest competitor Genshin's co-op is terrible.
Yeah.
So,
bad co-op in Genshin.
But like I'm going into Tower of Fantasy and I'm playing with my buddies and I'm like, all right, guys, when can we team up to do these? Oh, well, you can't. The story's solo still. You got to go do all the solo stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to spend 40 hours before we can even play the game together. Sea of Thieves came up with a way to do that. They've transitioned into the Destiny model of every season is a new story, and then it's dropped from the game so we can constantly change the world. To make sure that no one is ever behind. The captain, you're always on the quest that the captain picks, and there's no item levels. So everyone is always on the same playing field. It's all cosmetics.
Yeah.
But then you run into the end game is the glamour. Because that's all there is to collect.
Now on that, because chat saying Tower Fantasy is an MMO, that's it's MMORPG, in that regards. But are you excited about Blue Protocol at all? We haven't heard from the devs in over a year, but I
was like, we haven't heard anything in forever.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I wonder if Amazon's going to end up pick up the publishing rights for that here in the West because they seem
if Tower Fantasy is an official MMO, I wouldn't know because I can't do the co-op element stuff yet because I'm still in the story.
Right. I keep checking in. I ended up changing servers and kind of starting over. So I don't know. Like Tower Fantasy, like for me, just makes me hungry for Blue Protocol. And I'm just hoping that we'll start hearing more about that game, next year as Bandai finishes this restructure and all that stuff. But
you know what? Actually, I just thought of a good fix to the MMO casual thing. Have you ever heard of a game called Soul Worker?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Soul Worker is one of those like those Asian MMOs where you have a hub, and then we can team up and we go into like different locations for the battles. And the battles take about 10 minutes a pop. The game it's an interesting history about having funding, not having funding, getting shut down, changing publishers, a whole bunch of stuff. But the game is still alive today. And if you wanted to play an MMO with me, the hub-based MMO kind of can work with that. Because you instance every battle, but we're in a hub location, like Phantasy Star Online used to be, or even Monster Hunter World, where they tried to do their hub open player thing, and then you could team up. That could work for a casual meets an MMO player kind of a thing, where we could just keep dropping into dungeon runs in a hurry.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think a level syncing can come into play, and that's where it's like I think Final Fantasy has. I think they could fix the problem because it's like if we could just like if I could have my full kit, even if I at a level 10 or level 15, like it just meant that would make the lower end content, and then also just let people jump in and play together, drop in, drop out, more serverless architecture that they've kind of been moving into. I still think they got a lot of work to cut out for us. Now, I got a couple other questions, but I actually want to pivot kind of see what chat's talking about. Tally says, any thoughts on Ashes of Creations? What do you think about that game? Because it's been heralded as the savior of the MMORPG genre, like the whole genre.
Isn't that the one that was like a scam? No, legit question. I'm not trying to pick a fight on this one.
Oh man, I just was like, I wish I didn't laugh because I was like, can I just use that as a clip just over and over? Isn't Ashes of Creation a scam?
I thought it was like a Kickstarter scam.
It is a Kickstarter. It's the only remaining one that either wasn't a scam or didn't just
there were so many
collapse.
Scams that came out. That's why I'm not saying...
there is a hunger. Like one of the key aspects about Ashes of Creation, about the launch of New World, I think there is a massive amount of hunger. I just don't think any MMO can actually launch and satiate the demands of that hunger. That's
the other problem we're in now.
The
consumer base for MMO players would just gobble up everything so quickly. They can't keep up with it at this point. Because you do have games with billion team members like Fortnite, where Fortnite dropped a collab on a collab and 2 level packs at the same time.
Right.
Fortnite dropped.
prints like $2 billion a year.
That's what I'm saying, but that's what I mean. But like, this is what people compare it to.
Yeah.
Fortnite dropped DBZ, then Destiny, all at the same time, and they dropped it on the level packs. And it's like, everyone wants every other game to be at that pace. Now, on the flip side, some games just get stupid lazy with everything, like Destiny taking forever to come out with any new content. They're just rehashing stuff. It's so like this weird middle ground I think we could get to where players are happy, but they're not waiting 4 months. I'm playing a game, I don't know if you heard of it, Evil Dead, the game.
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah.
It's great. Love that game. So much better than Dead by Daylight, in my opinion, because I enjoy the fact that there's more to do than just hide in a bush. But they've taken 4 months to come out with any legit content drops. They dropped one map in 4 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. And the player base, I go to the Reddit to see if there's any updates. The player base on a daily basis, dead game is dead game. I'm like, dude, it takes me 2 minutes to get a match. I don't think this is a dead game at all. There's still people playing the game.
So to catch you up on Ashes, because there is some interesting aspects. They released a mini battle, royale to kind of test out the system, or so they said. This a couple years ago. They've since shut that down.
Yeah, I remember that.
But Ashes of Creation, so they say they got plenty of funding to launch. My question is never about launch. I think Ashes of Creation is going to pull in insane numbers because people are already so excited about it. But on paper, it's got full on. You can open world PvP. Everybody like you have to. There's some kind of bounty system so that if you're some kind of jerk, that you eventually can go into the evil red and you can get bounties and people can go out to find you. You level up a node. It's got these different nodes and not every node can be leveled up. So every server that they're touting is going to hold like 10,000 players will have its own structure. So dungeons and raids will be linked to leveling nodes advancements. So some raids and dungeons might not be available on your server specifically. It sounds like it's trying to address the new and the old school. And they actually use the term that I've been using for what I feel like the future of the MMO needs to go to is sand park, as opposed to theme park or sandbox, but a blending of the theme park and the sandbox into the sand park. And that's the term that they actually used, I think, in the last update. I was like, that's great. It's actually, they just migrated to Unreal 5. And in my mind, I keep thinking 2025 is their release date based off of their
apparently
feature
it's supposed to come out in 2020. So I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no, I've literally seen people have argued, like you said, no, you're wrong about Moon Knight. I've literally seen people told me, no, this game's coming out in 2020. No, this game's coming out in 2021. No, this game's coming out in 2022. I go, I'm setting myself up for 2025. So if it comes sooner, awesome. Yeah. And if it hits everything and it's the MMO dream, awesome. I just get a little bit weirded out by when somebody says it's going to save the genre, because imagine it saved 98% of the genre, but it didn't save the entire genre. Like, you have now set yourself up for like an impossible task that even if it gets close to doing the thing that and more people are happy because it like revitalizes MMOs in the public square. Like, for you, is it now a failure? Like, it's like, have you like, it's got to be Superman, it's got to be indestructible, and there better not be a Doomsday out there ready to beat him down. Like, what are we like? I just feel like people have set it up for failure, and even the head of it, the creative director head of it, said we'll launch with no problem. Someone going like, they're just like, I'm rooting for him, but they're making so many clips available so that it's the video of what went wrong and how it failed for Josh Drive Hayes is literally already writing itself right now.
Oh yeah. I love watching his videos. What happens?
Oh yeah,
because a lot of times I watch it for MMOs that I played a long time ago, just to see, like, because he's playing them now, and I'm like, how is Terra doing? Oh, poor Terra.
Poor Terra. Yeah, poor Terra. So, any thoughts on Ashes? Like, obviously, it's still, I think, a while away. Is that something you might check out as the?
Might. I'm not normally a fan of the open world PvP format in those kinds of games, because it's literally a situation of who has more time to play the game. If they have an answer to that, because I'm not a fan of gank games like BDO style. I love BDO, but I hate having to like always be on edge when I'm out in the forest, because it's not a fair fight. It's some guy being stealth who's been playing the game weeks more than I am and just super powerful.
Yeah.
I like fair fights. I like slightly off fights. I'm really into the game Naraka Blade Point right now because it's kind of like fair fight open world PvP basically. So
Yeah. Now I have like before I ask this next question, do you have a hard out here in 6 minutes?
I mean, I can postpone it a little bit, but I do have a meeting I pushed around to make this work earlier.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can wrap up now if you want, or we could do one more question and.
Yeah, let's do the next question to see how long we take with it, because we always do that.
All right, last question, guys. And I think this is really good because it talks about Riots MMORPG. And essentially, like, it's right. So when we look at Ashes, we know way more about Ashes. Like, we actually have seen gameplay. People have actually played the game. They keep talking about it. They keep us up to date with regular updates. Like Riots MMO, being that it's set within their universe, etc. Like, there is things that we know about it, but I am not surprised whenever we start talking about the future or the next big MMO that people don't bring up Riots MMO. And the only thing I've heard about Riots is that they've stated, if you want a single player game, go play a single player game. We're making an MMO, which speaks to me. Like, I mean, that means I'm going to check it out. But I also know, back to what you've pointed out earlier, is that that's going to be, like, kind of resistant to the casual market. And I consider myself casual hardcore because, like, while I don't have all the time to play, I do chip away. Like, I just okay, I can make, a couple hours of progress every week, and I'll do that, and people will burn through the content, quit, and then I'll still be here just having a good old time. Just just make a little progress every week.
Dude, you want to talk about somebody who gets into a game and makes a little bit of progress? The game I was playing right before this that I just was running it like right up to the time. It's called Super Mecha Champions. It's a battle royale that only has like 300 players ever at a time. And it's just an anime game where you jump into robots. And I'm like, man, it sucks that not a lot of people are playing this, but I'm having a blast. Like, the Riot MMO, I do think has a better chance than Ashes of Creation, though. Because Ashes of Creation is going to speak to the hardcores that do want, the hardcore open world PvP kind of a thing going on. I think the Riot MMO is gonna draw in the Riot crowd, which is going to give it a lot of initial numbers. Then it's going to go even further because of that. And that's why I think it's got a better chance of being the next big MMO.
Yeah, Ninja, aka Tyler Blevins, like, he's a old school Final Fantasy 11 player like us both, and that he just leans into, like, it's like the next MMO that he's even remotely interested in is the Riot MMO.
Yeah,
being that no one's seen it, like, it's interesting, and honestly, my hope in it is that nobody sees it until it's ready. I think that would be really wild, because when you start to think about how games launch and how, like, especially within content creation, like we're talking about Ashes, there's many channels doom and glooming it and positively building it up. And
I think the problem with Ashes is just because it's a Kickstarter. A Kickstarter MMO doesn't do nearly as well now because so many people did the scam ones. It's just got like a bad like connotation with it at this point. Like, oh, Ashes is a Kickstarter MMO? Oh, it's gonna be fail. It's gonna be a fail. It's gonna be a scam.
Yeah, I think I'm not so worried about it, but there is some weird, like, red flags. I haven't given it any money because you can still go purchase early access, etc., beta access, etc., as a part of funding it. And then he also comes out and says the game's fully funded and they have enough money, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, all right. Riot's interesting because, like, I think it does carry a lot of studio weight, and if they pull like an Apex Legends where they literally just say, hey, it's out, I think that gives a lot of people that, oh my gosh, that shock moment. And especially if it comes out in the midst of when there's nothing really else to talk about or to play.
So like every month right now, right?
Well, yeah, and it's like it felt like everything kind of came out in February, and like, yeah, there've been game releases. Like, we were like, I was like, originally when I was reaching out, I was like, let's talk multiverses, let's talk this. Like, there's like multiverses is like all I'm playing right now.
Oh, I love the hell out of the game. I haven't tried Morty yet. Have you tried Morty yet?
Yes. And I think he's probably broken, but
probably. I mean, everything's been broken so far.
It is. Like, that's the thing about the fighter. Like, adjustments get made, but the at its core, like, I really kind of hope that it kind of comes out of nowhere for me, especially as someone who's a fan of the genre. Like, ultimately, when it comes to Ashes, like, I follow all the news. Like, I'm interested. I'm already in. I'm rooting for it. Somebody said, like, you just want this game to fail. I'm like, you're not even listening to you're not even getting to, hey guys, welcome to the video. If that's your thought when you think about me.
That's half the I have though. One person said the other day, they're like, "Oh, of course Betty liked She-Hulk. He liked Batwoman." I'm like, "What are you talking about? All I did was ever shit on Batwoman. I never once said I liked Batwoman. What's wrong with you?"
Oh my gosh, that just leads me into very dirty jokes. It's like, well, S&M and all that good stuff. On that note, though, I do know you need to get to a meeting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with it. I appreciate you making time today. We'll have to get you back because, like, it's cool. I had all these questions and we got through 2 of them.
3. I think we did 3
on my list written down. Like it was like I wrote 1, 2. No. It was just like in the natural course of conversation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wrote 5 questions. We did 2 of them, so we'll have to get you back on sometime September or October. The FMK.
Only reason this
I was really hoping
we
get to FMK just as a clip, but we'll have to do that next time.
Okay. The only reason this one was wonky and I forgot about is because I just went to San Diego and then Seattle and was trying to work in between them, so it kind of really threw me off.
Yeah. Oh, dude, and that's the thing about time zones. It's always like, oh yeah, what time zone are you in?
Yeah,
I'm in Tech Central. Tech Central is what I'm calling it now. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us live. I really appreciate each and every one of you. This has been Epic Loot Radio for the podcast. You can always find us on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever audio podcasts are found. Link should be in the description. Go check out all of Benny's content and his channels. But guys, thanks for tuning in live. We'll see you in our next one. But until then, take care.